risk into US dollars.
Or
So
unless
this is
they left it in a centralized exchange.
yeah, but even then, as long as it didn't actually exit to fiat, it pumps all the market cap still. So there's this weird mechanic in crypto where if people scam and okay, I have a perfect example for guys. You guys are going to love this. The US government just seized $1 billion from the Silk Road hacker that is just brand new, just came out a few days ago. Guess what? He just sat on the 50,000 Bitcoin. He didn't spend them. So if a hacker comes along and sucks up $1 billion of your stuff and never sells it, similar to Satoshi, it just pumps the market caps and it never hurts the price. So, a lot of these centralized coins like ERC20s, like BNB, for instance, you go look at the ownership cap table and it's like the top 100 addresses own 90% of the coins. And it doesn't matter what ERC20 you pick, but BNB's made all-time highs versus Bitcoin consistently. BNB has been a better performing asset than Bitcoin. Well, lol, that's pretty interesting, right? So now look, there's the counterparty risk there. Like they're doing a burn, they might not burn anymore, all this different stuff. But like my point is that centralized ownership is very often amazing for price performance, but people confuse it with centralized network, which is bad for censorship resistance. And so for price pump, you prefer centralized ownership. What's the least centralized ownership coin in crypto? Bitcoin. And what's the least gains in crypto? I don't know. Bitcoin only 3x'd in 5 years. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, you've got to add an element of risk adjusted to everything.
Sure, 100%, sure. But look, when stuff like, so my point is, this is the best performing asset class that's ever existed. It has nearly 100% uptime. You're getting free airdrops out the yin yang. PulseChain is going to give you a free copy of everything on the Ethereum network. And we got 10 or 20, well, I don't know, maybe 10 airdrops during the last bull run. Where else in the real world do you get actual free money? You don't. The real world does not have free money on offer. But in crypto, I swear to God, there's actual real free money. It's wild. It's like insane. How lucky are we? And I mean, so if the government would just take its grubby, dirty hands off of our amazing technology, stop with the regulatory horror of making it illegal to sell the stuff to your friend, let exchanges flourish and have American customers, and let capitalism and competition do what it does best and give users choice and they choose the better thing, we'd be glorious. Why do you think everyone used FTX? I mean, FTX basically just came up because the founders of BitMEX got arrested. The guys that are FOMO tards that want to go FOMO hard didn't want to do it on BitMEX anymore because the founders went to jail for a while. And that's the only reason FTX came up, basically, is because it was considered a more play safe to FOMO and to get wrecked margin trading, in my opinion. My opinion. So look, long story short, there is no better performing asset in the history of mankind. There is no better uptime than 100% uptime. These features are amazing. The fact that you can get around evil governments doing capital control stuff that they might not should be doing, like North Korea or some other communist governments. The fact that you could leave a war-torn area like Ukraine with your money. The fact that if there's another war or a time of strife, you could pay to get your way out of those countries. There's just so many amazing things that crypto does that nothing else can do. It's one of the only things I know of in this world that can change man's relationship to government, and it will make less war. The government goes to war.
I wouldn't, Piotr, I'd let you continue. I think you'll agree with me. I just wouldn't put all governments, or put government in general, in just in a basket of being evil. Like we had regulators come on, we had the ex White House chief of staff, and he understood crypto. He supported decentralization and self-custody. So I think there's flaws in the current centralized world, but I don't know if even crypto itself is still an experiment, in my opinion.
If you've got a grandma, they're stealing your grandma's money every single day. The government prints away the value of your grandma's money that she worked her whole life to save every single day. If you're a crippled person or you're on fixed income or you're on a pension, your life is totally ruined by the inflation of these guys printing away the value of all your money every single day. They're violating the rights of the citizens. They're violating their right to free speech. Hey, guess what, guys? Here's something that, I'm a little bit pissed off about. I hear HEX influencers are getting subpoenas for promoting HEX. That really upsets me a lot, because HEX isn't a fucking security. It's truly 100% decentralized and launched totally complete and is uneditable and unchangeable. Period.
So Richard, I've got a question for you then. I think, again, I agree with a fair amount of what you said, and I really enjoyed the exchange between you and Simon. And as I say, I think we've got 16,000 people in here. I'm going to represent probably a proportion of them, which is I'm a novice in this. I have very little, in this industry. So from what I'm hearing from you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that now in the aggregate scheme of things, everything up's relative to when it first began. But that question leads to me is, so how do us newbies, again, if I'm role playing for some people, get involved if things are continually getting in a way? We're in a fluctuous period, it's volatile, there's a lot of concern, the encroachment of potentially regulation, and I might point out that a lot of your focus, which is fair enough, is to do with the United States, but it's going to be different in other parts of the world. China's not even, allowing Bitcoin mining. How do we navigate this period as people who want to get involved? They want to understand where to go, how to do it. What would you say to those people?
Quite simply, look, Kraken.com's got thin order books, but Jesse Powell that founded it is a cypherpunk, libertarian, believes in human rights, So now he ain't CEO anymore. Hopefully whoever there is running it is still doing a good job. I don't like referring people to exchanges that have margin trading. They get wrecked. So, but if I had to on-ramp a new user, I'd either on-ramp them to Bitstamp, who apparently will AML KYC you to death and ask you the worst questions ever, or to Kraken that has margin trading, but at least has Monero. Now, how many exchanges have Monero? Almost none of them. Why? Because they're cowards. But Kraken has Monero because Kraken cares more about your ability to be anonymous, your ability to have privacy, your human rights. Privacy is a human right, and you should never feel bad about using it. And anyone that would take it from you, ask them for their email password. Ask them to see their search history on YouTube and on Google and see how quickly they care about privacy again. So I would just tell a new user, look, set up an account on Kraken.com, install MetaMask on your phone, never give anyone your private keys, never give anyone your seed words. There is no support. Anyone that direct messaged you is scamming you. If someone messaged you and said there's support, they're scamming you. If someone messages on Twitter and says there's support, they're scamming you. Don't enter your private keys into a website ever. Do not approve weird dApps. Don't fall for fake giveaways. Don't fall for, I'm going to send you send one, you get two back, fake Elon Musk giveaways. Or lately, all these fake Uniswap liquidity bot giveaways. They're all scams. All you got to do is install MetaMask, save your 12 words, set up a Kraken.com account, wire some money to Kraken.com, buy Ethereum, and then swap that Ethereum to whatever you want using 1inch.io or match.xyz because it spreads your orders across all the available liquidity, gets you best order.
Just some quick breaking news that came from the block here. A GOP lawmaker that donated, that had been given a campaign contribution of $5,000, which is the max typically on these sorts of contributions from an FTX executive. He has now returned those funds, and he is dissing himself after the troubled crypto exchange filed for bankruptcy protection. It says here, FTX Digital Markets co-CEO Ryan Salame gave $5,000 to Hearn Victory Fund, a joint fundraising committee with ties to Hearn's campaign. The Help Elect Republicans Now Leadership PAC and the National Republican Congressional Committee. Representative Hearn has donated the money from FTX. Hearn's campaign said it did not specify which organization received Hearn's donations. So Salame was a major political donor during the 2022 midterm cycle. It says here he spent millions to support more than a dozen Republicans with his American Dream Federal Action Super PAC. Salame also gave individual contributions to many lawmakers and candidates.
So when are they going to get back the $50 million that Sam Bankman-Fried gave them to double our taxes?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just about
by
to
the
say.
way, guys, Tara is back up, and let her have her question.
That's actually perfect. I can hear Richard now, and I think I can hear everyone else. So thank you guys so much for working with me. I know this is extremely frustrating when the tech isn't working properly, but I appreciate the work you're doing to make it work out. Really quick, I don't want to keep you, Richard, but I wanted to ask you just what you guys were talking about, what you think, should be the recourse for these types of things. Should there be payback? Should there be money sent back from political parties that accepted, huge donations from
Totally.
SAM and FTX. What are your thoughts on that? And I also wanted to ask you about the SEC, as being kind of the governing body who has been preaching regulation, but at the same time, do we trust the SEC? Gary Gensler, who is obviously, well, in my opinion, bought and paid for to do the job fairly.
Well, good news. They already figured this out. It's called fungibility. So I think it was in the 1800s. Some guy got his money stolen, and he wrote down the serial numbers of the bills. And then he went to the bank, and he's like, "Hey, you've got my stolen property. These are the bills numbers that were stolen from me." And there was a big court case about it, a long time ago. And it basically said that to have a functioning currency, you can't have people doubting the provenance and origin of the currency because it would cripple all commerce, basically. And you'd have to create a database of less good and more good coins and have risk profiles and a bunch of other horrible crap. And so basically in the fiat currency world, once someone steals your money, it ain't your money no more. And so if someone steals your money and gives it away to a political party, it's gone. You ain't getting it back. If someone steals your money and spends it on slushies at 7-Eleven, you ain't getting that money back from 7-Eleven. It would break the fungibility of the currency. So you can claw back money from the bankrupt entity through the bankrupt process, and you'll discover you're an unsecured creditor and that the secured creditors get preferential treatment and are made whole before you, and you'll get whatever's left, and you can hope there's something left. So in the case of Mt. Gox, there is something left, and users will get a lot of money back at some point. Even there's a tragedy of the commons, because the trustee gets paid by not giving you your money back. As soon as the trustee gives you your money back, he ain't got a job no more, and he likes getting paid a lot of money. So he wants to drag on the process.
Well,
And
that's
you're only
not
getting-
quite
and you're only
true,
getting
right?
10%
Like
of the
in
vehicle
any bankruptcy case, that there is a time horizon for that. Yes, they make money, but at some point they actually do divest the funds to those who are.
I mean, you think it takes 10 years for Gox to give its creditors their money, bro?
They aren't purposely withholding them for a set amount of fees per year for one or two people holding them.
At this
I'm
rate
just
of
saying,
inflation, it'll be
10
worth
years
half
ain't
its
reasonable,
value.
bro. 10 years ain't reasonable. It's unreasonable. But anyway.
I'm not saying it's reasonable or not. I'm just saying that that fees for one or two people for holding them is not the catalyst for them withholding assets from people.
But the point is still the same. It absolutely sucks.
I hope you're right, but you have a higher opinion of lawyers than me, bro. So basically,
the lawyers are absolutely horrific in bankruptcy. It's awful.
Yep. So basically, like, once you get jacked, you're gonna stay jacked. Like in crypto, when you lose your money, man, it usually don't come back. So all them bridges that got hacked, like, I don't know, dude. I don't think that money ever came back. So a lot of these inflation bugs, like XLM had an inflation bug. Ravencoin had an inflation bug. Hackers they had a 10% of the supply inflation bug. Hackers just dumped it on exchange. You get that money back, it's gone. Like, so what would I like to see? I'd like to see people never lose money, and if they do, to be made whole. But who's supposed to make you whole, right? Like this idea that someone was saying that like there should be a bailout
Jesus
fund.
can make you whole.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a
What
bailout
doesn't sit well,
fund.
Richard, for me is when the regulating body is receiving large sums of money from potentially one side of the aisle, I guess you could say, and then they're in charge of regulation. What's stopping them from regulating in favor of certain things that should not be allowed because their pockets are being lined that way?
I 100% agree with you that governance in the general electoral system is broken. So I have a solution on how to fix that. So I won't say it's simple, but we need smarter people running for office, which means we need to pay them more because their pay sucks.
No, we need no office, though. We need just decentralization. That's what we need.
Yeah, but we also need the other stuff too. Like, we need both.
You know,
So
in
we don't.
Switzerland,
Richard, I don't
the
think there's
executive
anything
is
wrong
called
with
executives, and that's what they do. They're just nothing but employees, so they don't even propose laws or anything. You know, the laws comes from the referendums, and most of the people vote no because you don't want to have a pile of laws. You want to have as least laws as
Yeah, but you guys
possible.
approved the COVID vaccine restrictions.
Yeah, fine,
So
but this was an overreach, and now there's a referendum that's going to come in order to never have that again. You know, so you know it takes time sometimes,
I was
but
rooting for you. I was like,
I
there's
think
no way that people would vote for this, but
yeah,
then you
I think
did.
yeah, no, I can't believe it either. But whatever.
an important distinction. The word bailout is charged because you think of a government bailout, which is theft, because that's just printed and you pay for it through inflation. But there's not much wrong with a free market bailout. Those shouldn't
Except
be
for the
prevented.
Yeah,
centralization.